let me say, a word in defense of reason in dialogue with faith.
Because faith is that proof. Faith unites us to that substance.
But reason, in order to realize its full potential, needs the horizons revealed by and truths contained in the faith. And not just any faith, but the Catholic faith.
Two sets of beliefs that make up Mormonism. One is they widen the gap to an existential gap between Jesus and the patristic church to 1820, when Joseph Smith had his first vision. That's what the claim is, first vision. That they widened this, and they're never very clear when the church went off the rails. But it's usually thought to be pretty early. Well, I won't do that. But it's an existential gap. Where Luther and Calvin thought that Augustine was the greatest previous Christian thinker. I mean, Calvin's Institutes, the number one source other than scriptures that he cites is Augustine. The Mormons would never do that. It's earlier than that. They're not clear. Neither is Luther, neither is Calvin, exactly when. But they widened this. There's an existential gap. This, for Mormons, is called the idea of the apostasy. They widened that gap to where it's not even recognizable. It needs to be restored, not renewed or reformed. You don't need a kind of reform that St. Francis was called to give, more concern for the poor, when Christ appeared to him over the altar in the little church at Assisi. You don't need a new language to renew timeless truths, kind of like Vatican II proclaimed. Vatican II didn't make a break in the church. It made a kind of new language to express timeless truths. Or Paul VI made the absolutely right call in Humanae Vitae. But then Blessed John Paul II gave a much richer, deeper argument, renewed the argument in a much more positive way than had ever been done. Didn't change the fundamental principle, just renewed the argument for it. This is the Mormon idea. You need a restoration. But if there's no existential gap, then you've really got a problem. So they put an existential gap where there isn't one. And then they put no gap where there is. God, persons, no gap. Joseph Smith, in the last year of his life, last few months of his life, gave 2 talks, called sermons, if you will. And one of them is see if I've got the exact. One of them has become, it isn't in Mormon canonical scripture, but it's as near as you can get, and it expresses the Mormon truth, a truth about Mormonism. Not that it's a true teaching, it's just truth about Mormonism. Joseph Smith said, quote, God himself was once as we are now, and is an exalted man. God started out on a world like this one, and then became God. Huh? You mean he didn't create everything creatable? No. He's an organizer. He's a manager. He's not a creator. He is an office, like captain, and not a nature. There could be millions, millions, millions of human beings who have become God through a developmental process. There's no existential gap. So there's no need for an incarnation in the way traditional Christianity or Christianity holds. Since you don't need an incarnation, you don't need a trinity. Mormonism is not a monotheism, even a Trinitarian monotheism such as we proudly proclaim. It is a polytheism. That's what it is.